What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Bettin N Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Roscoe, and this week, this is episode 126, now covering the featured sequence on Saturday, the Wood Memorial card at Aqueduct. Welcome in, everybody. Thank you guys all so much for joining the show. Greatly appreciated, of course, as our brilliant viewers have already posted in the chat. Bluegrass weekend has been moved to Monday and Tuesday at my beloved Keeneland. However, now you guys have to tune in to Bettin N Boozin as we cover, again, the featured sequence on Saturday. Of course, Santa Anita Derby days Saturday as well. If you guys haven't watched Pacific Horseplayers from last night after this podcast, please go over, again, to youtube.com/HHH Racing Podcast and watch Pacific Horseplayers' take on the late pick 5 at Santa Anita on Saturday. But look, 5 horses in the Santa Anita Derby or 12 horses in the Wood Memorial. That is your answer for which card you're going to want to bet this Saturday. Guys, going through some quick peripherals. If you guys enjoy the content, of course, that we put out here on the HHH Racing Podcast, please go down below the video player on this video, hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. We would greatly appreciate it because not only is it 100% completely free to do, and it's the best way to help out our channel, it also pushes these videos out into the YouTube algorithm to hopefully bring like-minded horse players like yourself to the HHH Racing Podcast. And of course, for that, we thank you. As you see scrolling now, you can see our live shows and our normal schedule every single week here on the HHH Racing Podcast. Intermittent Mondays, guys, we have Horsin Around, which is either a recap show or talking about just chatting with you guys about, like, the last one was about the NHC and stuff like that. So those are intermittent Mondays. All the more reason to subscribe so you know when those are coming out. Every single Tuesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is Pacific Horseplayers with Noah, Ryan, and Jackson. Of course, they, again, like I said earlier, they covered Santa Anita and the Santa Anita Derby this weekend. So after the podcast, go watch that tonight. Always Wednesday here with Bettin N Boozin, and Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern with Picks and Ponies with Howard, Pete, and Paul, covering Bluegrass Day whenever it is supposed to run this coming week. But guys, I see a lot of people in the chat. We greatly appreciate the support. We'll get to all you guys in a minute. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchors, where you can listen to every single episode posted to the HHH Racing Podcast YouTube channel in audio form. So go over there and rate, review, and subscribe if that interests you at all. TikTok and Instagram at Bettin N Boozin Podcast. Would greatly appreciate you guys going and following over there. If you guys are into short form content, going to be posting a lot for this weekend, including previews of all 3 stakes races coming up either this weekend or early next week. The power picks, guys, extremely affordable and extremely profitable. 813 total picks since February of 2021 now, and still well over the positive mark at $2.10 of ROI all of those 813 total picks. Only $4.99 a weekend, $21.60 per month is what it comes out to, and you get 2 full tracks of price plays, spot plays, pick 5 grids every single Saturday delivered right to your email. But also you get Santa Anita, great friends of the podcast and supporters of the HHH Racing Podcast as well. So that's all done through Patreon. Patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast. Link is also in the description below. And the brand new Team HHH Power Picks are still available now. Go to HHHRacingPodcast.com. And under the Power Picks tip sheet tab, go to Specialty Power Picks. This covers every single meet-specific one we do throughout the year, including you'll get Kentucky Derby and Breeders' Cup Power Picks along with this subscription. It's only 2 payments throughout the entire year. And again, you'll get Kentucky Derby, Breeders' Cup, Keeneland, both fall and spring, Saratoga full meet, Del Mar full meet, and the international power picks with Davy Lane. And those are brand new and very, very good so far. So again, head on over to HHHRacingPodcast.com for everything you need regarding Team HHH. And of course, anything you want to learn about the podcast is right over there. Guys, I will bring on my co-host right now and we will get right into the chat and then right into the handicapping for you guys. Of course, if you guys are new here, we have a live chat. Please comment either on X or on YouTube. It is in the bottom right-hand side next to the video player. Please comment if you have picks in these races, if you already looked at them, or if we're following along, you have questions, anything like that. We'll read every single one, so please put it in the live chat. Guys, bringing on my co-hosts. As normal, as usual, no guest, no Caleb Keller, unfortunately, this weekend, as he did a great job with us last weekend. But you guys will have to suffice with, of course, the East Coast man himself, Patrick Kunsel, and Mr. South Beach himself, Charlie Freeman. Gentlemen, what is going on?
Nothing much. This is a fun one tonight.
Yeah, no, this is, we got promoted to being the big dogs unexpectedly, but I think we're more than capable of it. And, not just because we're not covering Gulfstream, but had to change the bio from Mr. South Beach, which is the first time I've changed it since OSU won it all. So big time change to the little bio now.
Well, the thing is, guys, like I mentioned at the start of the show, is with Keeneland moving back Bluegrass Day, the handle is going to be huge on Saturday for this Wooden Memorial card. Obviously, Santa Anita has their card as well. But when you factor in, field sizes and all stuff like that, even though the quality with journalism and barns could be viewed as better than what we're going to talk about today, it's a fantastic competitive card on Saturday. And like I said, the handle is going to be huge now without Keeneland coming in and breaking it up on Saturday. But first, guys, I have a video to show you. As you can see, Charlie Freeman's name has Sandman to the Derby, and we all love a good Charlie Freeman outburst. So before we get into the handicapping, I feel like this needs to be shown.
The icebreaker.
The icebreaker, ladies.
I thought we were saving this for the end, but all
no,
right.
We're going right away because this is a great way to kick off this podcast. Of course, as you don't know, I have, I guess, but I have a future bet on Tappan Street. Tappan Street, of course, went on to Tappan Street. My bad. Yeah, who knows? Dude, we're notorious for pronouncing horses' names wrong on this podcast. I have a future on Tappan Street. I'm very happy he ran very well and won convincingly in that day over Sovereignty, which is your most likely third choice in the Derby right now. This, ladies and gentlemen, we love to jump on StreamYard and we love to give each other crap, while we're watching races, gambling, just like we would do on any certain day. But this, guys, is something you're going to want to see. This is, of course, the Arkansas Derby. For those that don't know, Charlie Freeman has had for a long time, Sandman future in the Derby. Charlie, remind me, what did you get him at again?
Roughly 125 to 1.
There you go. 125 to 1. Sierra Leone-esque, if you will, last year. Of course, he didn't. Charlie is not big money bags, doesn't have the $1,000 to put on it. However, he's had Sandman at 125 to 1 throughout the entirety. I'm going to go full screen here, guys. I'm just going to let you guys enjoy this because this is good.
And now Cole Battle is given a cue to go, and he's taking third, and he's coming after the top.
Oh, look at the gray.
As they round the fourth third.
Look at the gray.
Come on, Sandman.
Look at the gray.
Come on, Sandman.
Run a big one, and Cole Battle, Speed King's done. Cornucopian, the dirt has turned into quicksand. He's done as they come to the top of the stretch here.
Come on, Sandman.
Sandman going at it, and Publisher trying to break his maiden in the
Come on,
Arkansas
Sandman.
Derby. Cole Battle has lost the lead.
Nice.
Sandman, Publisher,
Yes.
only threat to
No, focus, you fuck.
Focus.
Here.
It's
Focus.
Sandman in front by 2.
Get him home. You're the best fucking horse in the world. Get him home.
And he gets a
That's the
confidence
second best
booster,
horse
and he's
behind
in
Prater.
Kentucky.
You're welcome.
Sandman does it. The son of Tappan.
Okay. After all that, we have two things to talk about here, Charlie.
Yeah,
One, best horse in the world might have a running for you there. I get it, dude.
He says things that,
This is what we love about Charlie. He
I'll
says
trust
things.
it all. Go ahead.
No, but look, Charlie gets in the heat of moment as we all do. It was a fantastic ride and a great run from Sandman. And the other thing is that, Pat, you knew that there had to be something about Prater in
of course.
Some type of thing. Second best horse behind Prater of all horses. But Charlie, man, look, it was a great win. Of course, like I said, I put on my best bets with Caleb Keller. I've had Tappan Street. I'm going to keep saying Tapestry. It's the way it's going to go.
It's okay.
As one of my best bets there, of course, I had the Derby future on him, so I'm alive to a couple thousand there. Look, we both had great weekends for our horses, and Sandman, of course, did it very well in the Arkansas Derby.
Yeah, no, it's just nice to see him actually put it all together and get it over the hump. To address what happened, like I told you guys after you revealed to me, because also I want to set for everybody watching, this was not like an acting thing by me. This was not me trying to like pretend to do something to get everybody's attention. You can ask Kyle. I had no idea this recording happened until later that night when Howard was asking me all these questions about how I'd feel about theoretically being recorded on a video. And that's when I put two and two together to realize, well, clearly you must have then recorded me and then he showed me. That was all genuine. The last thing I remembered from that race was Ryan yelling out during when we were watching it, "Oh, here comes the gray." And then I blacked out the entire stretch. I didn't even know what I said. The first thing I said to Howard was just, let me make sure I didn't say anything that would offend anyone before I am okay with you putting this out there. So that's when I got to see it. The whole Prater thing was just that these were my first two loves. No one knows all about this. I started my research list of Kentucky Derby horses in October/November, probably November, because right after the Breeders' Cup. And the three horses that were on my very first list was actually Sovereignty, Sandman, and Prater. Those were my first three, but Sovereignty, since he had already won that race at Churchill, was way too short of a price. That's why I threw that out there. And of course, what I say was the best one. I don't remember saying any of that until I watched back the video. I blacked out the whole stretch. All I remember was freaking out and then seeing him get green and being like, please don't somehow lose this race.
Yeah.
But no, it was very nice to see him put it all together. Then complete sidetrack, but I saw Terry Frank's comment. Did want to appreciate that shout out as well, because I did give two future bets, which was Maryland to the Sweet 16 and all 4 1 seeds to the Final Four, which has now only happened twice at 16-1 in both those futures cash. So March Madness was a pretty successful time for me. So
look, hey man, it gives you more ammo to fire into this card, and then of course Keeneland for the entire meet. So it's gonna be a fantastic time coming up soon. But I'm pissed.
Now we both got to prepare for the Derby, though. Also,
it's true. Trust me. Nice thing is that I don't have to play him in the Derby. That's for damn sure. But either way, I'm a little pissed about Keeneland at this point. Of course, it's for the betterment of the horses. Like, it wouldn't be any other way. But I was slated to go to Lexington this weekend and next weekend. Got a cheap flight. Was so hyped to go, and then of course crushing my dreams. But again, that leaves this card, guys. We're going to cover all stakes tonight, so it's not necessarily going to be the late pick 5 sequence or any certain sequence. We're going to cover the race 7, which is the Distaff Stakes, and then we're going to cover races 9 through 12, of course, culminating in the Wood Memorial. So let's get started, guys. We've already yapped for a pretty decent amount of time. So cheers to everyone out there. Just coming back from Chicago. If you guys follow me on Twitter, you know that I got the good stuff, guys. We got Yingling on tap today. So cheers to out there, anyone that's boozing along with us. What we're going to cover, guys, of course, starts in race number 7, which is the Distaff Stakes on Saturday. It is it's going 7 furlongs for olders, fillies, and mares. Draws a field of 7, and your morning line favorite is definitely going to be the number 1 Irish Maxima. Frankie Pennington hops aboard for Service. And it's going to be pretty close behind. They have the Bill Mott runner and Socially Selective. St. Benedict's Prep for Linda Rice will probably be your second choice there. As I bring up our picks right now, Charlie and I are both going with Irish Maxima. I'm sure, Charlie, you thought about the same way, trying to not get cute in this one. However, there is a cute man trying to get cute with this one. It is the man to my right, Patrick, Socially Selective. And as Paul likes to say, never, if you get beat by a Bill Mott, you're going to be upset.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll be on Paul's side in this race. Yeah, no, listen, Socially Selective in here, she's going to have to get a little bit better and get back to, the form that seems to be pretty well meant by Bill Mott. Bill Mott's put this horse on a path to be a good one, traveling to bigger tracks and, putting her in spots for bigger races, to be quite honest. And I just think she's going to sit off, hopefully a pace here. I'm going to hope the 3 or the 4. I think St. Benedict's Prep is going to show more speed than time form suggests. And I kind of have to hope that, or else your 1 is going to get loose, and I think it could be over. But last race for Socially Selective, she just kind of dipped to the inside in the stretch and had nothing there. It looked like she might have been a winner. I'm not sure really what happened in there. So I think, like full disclosure, I think the talent's there. Just has to sit that right trip, and hopefully the one does not get loose on the lead.
And Charlie, we'll talk about that, of course, in a second. But I really did like the 2 back, only 3/4 back to Mystic Lake, who's a very good horse in the Sugar Swirl. The only thing is that this race is going 7 furlongs again, which I just don't think might be her best distance. You could see last time she kind of faded a little bit, not badly necessarily, but it definitely wasn't encouraging going longer. But she has won very strongly at 6.5 both times that she's ran at Gulfstream. So interesting to see what she does here, but should sit a good trip behind what I see as a loose leader.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I think I'm assuming that's how we kind of landed on this similarly. I just think, well, for starters, I do actually think, in respect to Irish Maxima, that she's also just the best horse in the field right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it would be kind of discrediting her to just say we think she'll win because she'll get loose on the lead. I think if we're being honest, if you look at her figures, she's also been the most in form and most talented horse in this field. But yeah, the way time form is showing this is the exact way I interpreted this. I think she's already too talented. I think she gets loose. And quite honestly, we'll get to best bets later, but I have a feeling this is just going to be the 1-4, go around the track 1-4, and the order doesn't change. I don't think – I just don't see enough speed or setup in here. Irish Maxima is the only true sender in this field, quote unquote. I mean, St. Benedict's Prep has always just naturally been a fast horse, but if you really look at it, other than the races where there's blue figures – she tends to sit second or third. So I have a feeling that Jose Lezcano is just going to be sitting right off the one and then just hope to see if he has enough. Because quite honestly, I don't think if she tries to go all out to be on the lead with the one, I think she'll fade badly. So I think she'll just sit right off and it'll end up just being 1-4 around the track. And then I just ended up having the 2 Sea Dancer in third just because I think she has a really impressive late kick, and especially the way it's translated to dirt. I think she's probably the second most talented horse in this field, the way she's quickly progressed on dirt. The problem is I think it's just too short and not enough setup, so I think she could clunk up for third. But to me, honestly, I think this is a 1-horse race, and I just think St. Benedict's Prep benefits from the setup to get second.
And I'm glad you have this horse in here because I did have this horse originally third in my top 3. I ended up going with St. Benedict's Prep for all of what Charlie just mentioned. However, I do think Sea Dancer is very interesting. However, I just think that she hasn't been facing exactly as good of company as what this is going to be in here, plus going shorter, the turn back to 1 turn. Shout out to one of Howard's favorite angles. However, again, she's going to have to be better than her last couple. She's going to have to show improvement. As you can see, time form numbers, Irish Maxima is the only one that's in the 120s. St. Benedict's Prep 2 back at Laurel does have a 119. However, that was in a losing effort to Irish Maxima, and the Royal Spa actually has a 119 as well last time, again in a losing effort to Irish Maxima. So I completely agree with Charlie. I just think the one much classes above this field, and if she does get loose, it might as well be over. But it'll be interesting to see what St. Benedict's Prep does trying to press, which could set up in theory for Patrick's 5, of course, a horse that I think is very live as well, as I have in second. But guys, that's kind of all with the Distaff Stakes. There's not a whole lot in here, of course, with the only field of 7. There's a couple others in here. Irish Ocean Gateway for Christoph and Dylan Davis. I always respect that combo. However, she's going to have to show some pretty big improvement at the age of 5. Although second off the layoff and off a buyer top. So definitely can. I'm assuming that's why Clement is taking the shot in here. But again, is going to have to improve. Royal Spa, I mentioned as well. Last time was good and got a pretty high buyer top at the age of 5. However, is going to have to improve again off of that effort. I guess it's possible, but would have to be a pretty big improvement. Same thing. Kind of my same thinking with All Class as well. But guys, we'll move on to the Pat, you want to say something, please go ahead.
Yeah, no, just one thing with All Class. I don't know if they're going to run her in this spot. They might go to an allowance, I saw Linda said in an interview. But
okay.
if this horse does run, this horse is going to come from off the pace.
Yeah.
St. Benedict's Prep is going to try for the lead. I'm going to almost bank that. I think this horse is going to be very forward. And I don't think the one's going to get the lead as easy as Charlie says. Now, listen, class, talent might just, prevail in here. But I'm going to bank on the 4 really fighting the 1 for the lead.
Hey, and again, if anyone wants to beat the 1 in theory, you'd imagine someone has to press. And St. Benedict's Prep has done her best running on the lead like that. So look, we could see, we could be completely wrong. The problem is that if St. Benedict's Prep does go to the lead or try to, I honestly just think Irish Maxima might just be naturally faster and get the lead easier. So again, but we'll see on Saturday, but that's the way I viewed the race. But again, I completely respect your guys' opinions in this one. I'm going 1-5-4. Charlie's going 1-4-2. Pat's going 5-1-4. And Noah does bring up a very good point. Of course, Noah, host of Pacific Horseplayers on Tuesday nights, said, wonder if some jocks pick up mounts in New York with Keenan cancellation. You got your IRADs, your stuff like that need a place to run. They might move up to New York with Keenan cancellation. Might see some jockey changes. That's actually a very good point, Noah. So keep an eye on that. Guys, the next race we're going to talk about is we're skipping race 8, which is of course, a allowance for New York State breds. We're going to skip that one and go on to race number 9. Now, this is actually the start of the late pick 5. Of course, we're not going to cover the last leg, but this is 4 races in a row, starting with the race 9, which is the Gazelle. Mile and an eighth for fillies 3 years old. Ton of implications here as well. Morning line favorites probably going to be the number 2, Ballerina Doro, for Dylan Davis and Chad Brown. As I switch to our picks here, both of you are going with Ballerina Doro. I'm actually going with a little bit of a wild card here. And Terry Frank, I like your thinking in the chat as well. I'm going with the number 3, Vanilla Sunday, off of a very big effort. Charlie, going to go to you first here with the number 2, Ballerina Doro. Look, she's done nothing wrong. Her Demoiselle was very, very good. Ran into a little bit of a slower pace in the Devona Dale down at Gulfstream Park. But off of that effort, could go, if she gets back to her Demoiselle, could be very good in here.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I just thought personally that debut on the dirt was just incredibly impressive. Ran into a really tough filly in Mahima, and to run that big. And obviously you can see, I mean, there's a reason for a Chad Brown that this horse was 10-1. And I really don't think it was that she was quote unquote dead on the board. I think it was more so people saying, look, Chad hasn't figured it out with her on the turf. And now we're going to try dirt. So there were a lot of question marks, and she ran massive. And I mean, if you look, this is a horse who lost to Mayday Ready twice on turf. So it's not like she wasn't running against anyone. And then last time at Gulfstream, she never really had a chance. I was actually on her a little bit that day because I was kind of hoping there'd be more of a pace setup. We talk about this all the time in races where you think there's no pace, then there is pace. And in races where it looks like there's going to be a setup, then they don't go. And you can see, obviously, the fractions were pretty cold, which is just not what she wants. She ended up having, and through no fault of Tyler's, in my opinion, but he ended up having to sit about 2 lengths off the lead, which is not where she wants to be. But again, because they were going so slow that if she tried to sit as a true closer, she didn't have a shot, and then wasn't able to show that same leg kick. I'm hoping here with the distance stretch back up to a mile and an eighth that she likes at a track that she ran well at. And I just think there will be enough of a setup together there. She is the class of the field, but I will say the one thing, if you're trying to beat her, that I can't fault you on is, again, she does need some sort of setup, which I'll kind of let you talk on, Collar. If Pat, you want to add anything with the 3, because I would say that's the other way you could flip it, is if there's not enough pace, then the 3 could be the one who benefits.
I mean, Pat, anything to add on Ballerina Doro, or we can go into Vanilla Sunday?
I mean, the only thing I'll say, and Charlie did just kind of hit on it, like Ballerina Doro had a little temperature early on in the winter, so kind of faltered what Chad wanted to do. So I think he got her back on track here, and I'm hoping this is kind of the coming out party for her. I think this will be her day, and should appreciate a pace in here, because that's what it'll need. But Vanilla Sunday, Kyle, I'll let you start because I do like your pick.
And look, like I said, I'm usually against these horses that, trying 2 turns for the first time, coming out of a massive maiden win that really looks like it came out of nowhere. But hear me out, guys. So in this race, I don't see a whole lot of pace. Now, the horse to the outside, Liam in the Dust, has been fast and is coming from 1-turn races just like the 3 is. However, you can see at the mile, 23:47, it was still back by 2 lengths in that race. Vanilla Sunday went 24:48. Granted, was well clear, but I don't feel like that was as fast as she can go. And if Liam the Dust's going to have to try a little bit harder, it almost seems to me, drawing the outside, this horse is going to fade decently badly. Again, could come back and could run as good as she did in the Demoiselle, running a 77. But in my opinion, she's still going to have to improve from that, as she finished almost 7 lengths behind Ballerina Doro. So be interested to see what this pace complexion does look like. But I'm very happy with Vanilla Sunday drawing the 3 in this race. The horse to her inside, Ballerina Doro, absolutely no speed. Late Night Call is going to be the interesting horse in this race because has sent in the last 2. However, the last one at Laurel, look at the fractions in these last 2, 24 and 49. And then you have 25 and 1 and 50 and 1 as well. So it'll be really interesting to see how fast Late Night Call actually is in this race, because Vanilla Sunday is very, very fast and is going to have to go farther in this race, of course, than she's ever done before. But you have the dam was very lightly raced. However, you have Gun Runner in here who does progress better with time. This is going to be your second race off the layoff into her 3-year-old year, coming off of that big effort. So hopefully she's just better now as a 3-year-old. She's matured a little bit and now she can run very well. But it's definitely going to be a question mark, and I would not take anything under like 7-2, 3-1 on her. If you get into the 5-2, 2-1s, you're taking a pretty big risk on a horse who doesn't have a whole lot of, 1, of experience, and 2, of exposure in races like this versus someone like Ballerina Doro. So I want to, at least, it's a strong pick, but it's kind of a proceed with caution strong pick, if you will. So running with Vanilla Sunday in this one. There's a ton of others in here that I at least want to mention a little bit. Charlie, you have early on in your top 3, and Patrick, you have a horse that I'm very interested in third. I have in second, which is the number 7. Charlie, early on, Saffie Joseph shifts up here, ran very well in the Virginia Oaks off of a good maiden win. Going to have to improve a little bit here, but just like the rest of these young fillies in here, there's no reason why she can't take another step forward.
Yeah, I think she's going to want every bit of this distance, just like the 2. I think the main concern both of them naturally have is the pace setup. That being said, I was looking at this horse because I was at Gulfstream when this horse was running at Colonial, and I was looking to pass time and decided I wanted to bet that race. When I was going through the replays, I was really disappointed. Then, even though it only came back a 71, when I watched that effort 2 back, it really looked like Saffie figured something out with this one, and she took a huge step forward and just looked so much more impressive. And again, I think the buyer could have been better if it wasn't the fact that she was running against a weak field and was already getting away. So he was trying to, conserve her. But when I saw that effort, I thought, especially also because it's C2 Racing Stables, you always have to respect those connections, that something could be there. Then I bet her in that last race, kind of got the setup, kind of didn't, and then was absolutely flying late with Flavian and just missed ultimately to a really game horse who I believe was like 6-5 or even money or somewhere around there. And finally, who was a horse that people were really high on that day. So I just thought that was a really solid effort. And I liked that he had the confidence off of that, where it was already a pretty big step up to send that from a maiden special weight race that wasn't a big deal. And then to send this one here, I just think kind of builds on what I already thought, that he truly has figured out something with her. Again, she's going to be pace dependent. The only other one I wanted to touch on very briefly is the one just below the 5 horse, who I was going to ask what you guys thought. Again, needs a setup, but I just thought it was a little bit of a wild card. And that this one also, had one dirt effort that was terrible, then goes to PETA and turf, and then gets thrown back on dirt and tap in a tough race against Lacara and her laugh. And, kind of just flattened out at 7th, but it's kind of just one that I just at least thought was a wild card where you don't really know what's going to happen. And I kind of just wonder if she will show more speed, because obviously time form shows she won't, because she hasn't been that fast on dirt. But you can see in some of her other races, she's been a little more forward, and quite honestly that she has to. So kind of like the one that you talked about, Kyle, I thought this is another one that's a wild card. And of course it's Godolphin as well.
It's just really, it's weird. Like, I don't know what way to put it.
I completely agree. I thought she was just a wild guy. I don't know what to make of her, but I just thought to at least more, because I don't know what she's going to do in this race, because she can't be a closer. She won't win because she doesn't have the kick, in my opinion, of the 2 or the 4, but I don't know what they'll do with her. But she could just be one more that complicates the race, in my opinion, because I'm like, why else would you put her here?
She's bouncing back between, she ran in the optional claiming, absolutely blitzed that field, then runs on the Suncoast, granted behind Lacara and her laugh, which are 2 Kentucky Oaks hopefuls. And then they put her back in the Florida Oaks. She runs very well behind a very nice horse in Nitrogen. And now they put her back in here? I didn't know what to, you said it the best. I don't know what to do with this horse. She could run well. But again, if she's going to run a similar trip to a horse like Ballerina Doro, I would much rather have one than the other. I'll tell you that much. So,
agreed.
That's the one that I did not know what to do with. at all. Pure Beauty, Patrick, is a horse you have in third, I have in second. Last horse we'll talk about before we move on. Shug ran her at Saratoga too. Terrible. Didn't want to run. Granted, ran behind a very nice field that day, but put her on the shelf, bring her back at Gulfstream. Very well. Granted, only got a 55, but ran very well. Then came back in an optional claimer with horses that are very, very good, like Anna's Promise and Justin Queso, who Anna's Promise, by the way, came back to run second in the Gulfstream Park Oaks behind a very nice horse in my top pick that day. 5G. Justin Queso is another horse who hasn't come back to run yet, but again, 85, 83. Now Pure Beauty shows up in here. I think people are going to discount her because she looks a little slow and she's gone massive jump, massive jump. I think she's a little interesting in here.
Yeah, I think she's going to handle these 9 furlongs. And the reason I say that is off that last race. The way she improved throughout that race, showed me she'll appreciate the extra distance in here. Has been working steadily. And, Shug is not one. We talked about this last week on the show that we did on that Tuesday night with Howard for the, the non-graded stakes at Gulfstream. He placed a horse in deeper waters, and the horse ended up running third. I think this is not the case of Pure Beauty. I think she's gonna be there and coming late. We'll see if she has it. I know her father is a Kentucky Derby winner in Orb, so she's got that going for her. But we'll see. I think this horse, we're definitely gonna catch a price. So we'll see if this horse can run big on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm just like I said, based off that last race where she ran a very good third. To Anna's Promise again, who came back to run second in the Gulfstream Park Oaks to 5Gs. So I'm willing to take a shot with a horse who's most likely going to be a decent price in this one, at least underneath for your trifectas and exactas. But guys, we'll move on, of course, to race 10, which is the Carter. But I'm going 3-7-2 in the Gazelle on the road to the Oaks. Charlie's going 2-4-3. Pat's going 2-3-7 to hopefully prove me wrong. Guys, moving on to race number 10, which is the middle leg. The middle race of what we're going to talk about, and it's the second leg in the late pick 5. It is 7 furlongs for older males. The Carter Stakes, grade 2, draws a field of 8, and I put up the field right now. The morning line favorite is most likely going to either be the Maryland bred, the number 2, Quince Brew, and then followed by number 3, Surveillance, and the number 7, the Pennsylvania bred, Maximus Meridius. And I put up the picks right now. You'll see 2 of us are going with Quince Brew. Patrick going a little bit off the rails here, going with Donegal Momentum, a horse I don't have anywhere. Charlie has in second. So actually very interesting spread here from the boys. But real quick, before we get into this race, I want to acknowledge at least a couple of the comments here of people we don't see very often on our show. Jeffrey Amston, I saw your comment. Thank you very much. He said you can't replace jocks except for illness. But again, I know without paying the same fees, of course, but I know some people that would much rather have one jockey than the other. We'll just see how it goes because, again, they have no mounts on Saturday. So I'm very interested to see where people like that go. And Felice, thank you so much for joining the show, man. I haven't seen your name in a long time. Said none of this matters. First Friday in May. Quiet Side, baby. I'm a big fan of Quiet Sides as well. So good luck with you. You said he got her at 19-1, which she's definitely going to be lower than that in the race. So good luck with Quiet Side, of course, in the Kentucky Oaks, guys. Let's move on to the Carter, and I'll let you, of course, Patrick, you talk first. Donegal Momentum, a horse that's kind of been a little interesting as, again, ran on dirt, ran very well, got moved to the turf and has run very well, and now is back to the dirt.
Yeah, he's such a cool horse, being able to be so versatile and win on, whatever surface in kind of whatever race. I mean, they obviously had high aspirations and still do for this horse, sending this horse out to Del Mar and fairgrounds, running on the turf the last 2 times. But ultimately what got me here is, it might be a muddy track on Saturday. We can bring up that subject for weather. There is supposed to be some rain in, my area, in the tri-state area here. And Donegal Momentum loves the muddy track and has shown that. So I think this horse is obviously going to be forwardly placed. I know Tom Morley has said that, this horse can pretty much do whatever, and we'll watch the weather because if it does, I think if Keeneland's weather is not as bad, they entered the horse or going to enter the horse in the Maker's Mark Mile that he said. I saw in an interview. So You got to question that, but the talent is there. I think this horse is going to be right there. We'll have to improve maybe a little bit on the dirt to others in here that are a little bit older, but I'm really looking forward to betting Donegal Momentum at a nice price.
And you're getting second off the layoff at 4, so he shows all the type of signs that he can improve. Charlie, you have the horse in second. I don't have the horse anywhere, so maybe I'm overlooking something. But like I said, he's coming back to dirt for the first time since Saratoga and the Amsterdam, where he didn't run very well. But of course, before that, he has very good dirt starts, so can pick it back up, and he's training very well over in New York.
Yeah, no, I keyed in on the training for sure. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't know how you guys interpreted it. I thought this race was pretty damn wide open. I thought 6 out of these 8 horses could realistically win. I thought the 1 and the 8, I didn't really think had a chance. I thought you could make an argument for just about anyone else. I just honestly, and I don't know if you saw this as well, Pip, but I saw a decent amount of horses that are going to want to be pretty damn forward and fighting for that lead. And I just thought Donegal Momentum at least was worth a look, because I don't see why he couldn't. Yeah, exactly what you're seeing here. I don't see why he couldn't just sit off that. And if they end up battling, just sit a nice trip where he saves ground on the rail, or maybe at most 2 wide, and just bides his time. And as long as he stays within touching distance, definitely, we'll have a late enough kick. The question is just, can he stay close enough? But to me, I just trust Javier Castellano, especially if he does any sort of style that we've seen in his later races. And I think they kind of just know this as well. You can't afford in a race this short to be way back. I think if he sits the right stalking trip, he could absolutely get it done here.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that's a good point, is he's coming back to 7 furlongs again. So, again, very versatile horse. He can do whatever that seems like that's asked of him. But going, except for the Amsterdam where he ran very poorly, he hasn't run at a sprint distance against winners. Again, where he hasn't lost by 14 3/4. So, again, second off the bench at 4, though, could improve. You're going to get a good price on him no matter what. Yeah, well, exactly. Could be very good on an off track as well. But you're going to get a nice price on him no matter what. So I feel like that's the saving grace with Donegal Momentum. If he's good enough price, take a shot. Guys, I'm going with the number 2. Charlie, you're also going with Quince Brew. Look, this is definitely not a creative pick. I'll tell you that much. I think he's very good on the lead, and I think they'll probably send him. I don't know if they need to, but the horse to the outside, the number 7, Maximus Meridius, is very, very fast early, Charlie, and at this sprinting distance as well. But Quince Brew is very, very good. And against a shorter field like this, where he's probably faster than the 3 early Surveillance, I don't think Surveillance is as fast, at least not anymore, to keep up with horses like Quince Brew. So if he goes out there, they're going to need to catch him. And he hasn't been very good at he's been very good at letting himself not be caught.
Yeah, no, I think he's the horse to beat. I think he's the safest bet by far. I think realistically, he's one of those that we talk about, except he has the success to back it, where he doesn't just create trips for himself and put himself in great positions, but he actually goes out and wins. And that's just how I see this being like his last 2 are. I don't think he needs the lead by any means, but I also think he does a good job. And, we talked about this in the race before with the one horse where we were saying, is it just enough natural speed that St. Benedict's Prep can't do anything about it? I think that's kind of how Quince Brew is too, in terms of staying close enough. I don't think anybody in this field is fast enough to get away from him enough, no matter how hard they try, with his natural speed, that he'll be too far away and have too much to do. And again, with all of his experience, I know he hasn't run a ton, but he has 2 starts at a mile, has 2 starts at 7 furlongs. You don't have to worry at all, again, about him having enough in the tank. He's been consistent on the dirt. He, has run since coming off the bench, off a long layoff, might add, a 98 and a 101, which is incredible. I think he is absolutely the horse to beat. And again, in a race where I do think it's pretty open and a lot could happen, he would be the horse that stands out like a sore thumb for me in this field. I gave some others a look, like Surveillance. I love Surveillance. He's such a fun horse, but the reality is he's 8, and I think he has to basically win from the lead at this point of his career, and I don't think he can get it. I also looked at Full Moon Madness. I kind of thought the same thing. I don't know what you guys thought, but I know you have the horse in third, Pat, if you want to add. My main concern, again, for this one is just I'm seeing a lot of blue numbers for when this one's forward. And then for the 7 that you touched on, Kyle, that I'll let you get to, I was torn about putting that one in third or not, but I ended up wanting to go for a little more of a price with the 6. But before we get into the 6 and 7, Pat, I wanted to see what you thought about the 4.
Yeah, I think honestly, age is on Full Moon Madness side. I think he's just starting to get a little better and better. I've watched a replay, just visually, it's just a huge horse, like really just a big horse, and I think just kind of was a little immature, but has to break. The horse has had trouble breaking. I think if the horse can break, I don't see a regression in here at all. I think this horse. I mean, I know 98 buyer last time, but I think this horse can get a middle 90 buyer again and be right there.
I mean, look, I have him in second. Charlie didn't even acknowledge me. I have the horse in second. I think the horse is very live. The fact that doesn't need the lead. If he's going to sit right behind the speed, and if Carmouche has him in the right spot, he could easily win this race, especially off that last race in the Tom Fool, where I thought he ran very, very well. And again, just to wrap up Quinn Sprue, again, it's not a creative pick by any means. However, I would love for Sanchez to take back, let Maximus Meridius go, and just take to the outside right off his flank and just blow by that horse at the top of the stretch. That's exactly what I would love to see in a race like this. Obviously, I have the horse in third, just from a pace standpoint and the way Aqueduct's played recently with speed. If he does go with Joel Rosario aboard, and he crosses over in front of the two, I think he can hold on for a piece. But again, a horse like Donegal Momentum can definitely sneak into third or even second. For me, it's a very wide open race underneath. If Quinn Sprue wins his race, I just feel like race might be over from the start, but completely understand everyone else's picks. Charlie, you are going though with a little bit of an with a horse, another Saffy, shocker from South Florida. You know, what a shocker that is. But what'd you land down with Dilger? Then we'll move on.
Yeah, I think he's one that could get a really nice stalking trip and sit off here. And I absolutely think he can get a piece. I almost moved him up to second. I love that Dylan Davis is aboard. For me, when I was looking at this one, I just think has such an interesting career, right? Like started on the turf, then is running mile to 16th races, runs a very respectable third, in my opinion. Losing to Encino and the Wine Steward is nothing to be ashamed of. And then goes to New York, runs a decent third against Mariachi, who I know is a horse that Matt Miller liked a lot back in the day, who's a nice horse. Then runs against, Henro and Jefferson Street, who are very nice horses, in a stakes race at Churchill and just misses. And then Into Pleasure, who's another really nice horse. And then after that, finally kind of got some relief from having to continuously run against tough ones. And, you could see with the price that the horse was at, why, getting that class relief at 6 and going by. So this is another one where it's kind of a similar angle for me with this one as Donegal Momentum. I just think the two, again, not lays over, but is the most logical winner. And I wanted to put two horses that I know I'll get a price on underneath at least to get some value.
And they're going to be prices. And the thing is that they're going to have to improve. Like there's no other way about it. But if they do improve on the dirt, they could easily at least be in your exactas and trifectas. I feel like we've said that for every single horse in this race at this point. But it's if Quinn Sprue wins his race, for me, I feel like a lot of these horses are just fighting for second and third. However, I feel like you can make cases for 4 or 5 different ones to fill out ththose exotics. So it's going to be a very fun race in the Carter. Going 2-4-7 for me. Charlie's going 2-5-6. Pat's going 5-2-4. Guys, moving in to the second to last race we're going to talk about today. It's the listed stake in the middle of graded stakes. It is the Excelsior, going 1.25 miles for 150,000 as I switch over the Equibase right now. It's for older males is what I meant to say. Draws another field of 8. And as I bring up the picks right now, you'll see Mazmak is back. A lot of names, if you follow a lot of similar names, if you follow the New York circuit. Batten Down is back for Bill Mott. Croupie's in there. Film Star, Phileas Fogg, Mama's Gold. Tons of familiar faces in this one as I put up our picks right now. And for once, we're going with different horses, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going with the number 8, Mazmak, who's probably going to be your most likely morning line favorite, I think. There's a lot of different horses that can be made a case for, though, in here. Charlie, I like the pick going with Batten Down in this one. Pat's going with the number 4, Croupie, who's probably going to be a decent little price in this one. I let Pat go first last time. Charlie, I'll let you talk first about Batten Down. Look, he's been very good at times. He's also been very frustrating at times. And this is one where the pace does look a little fast. I don't necessarily think he's going to get I don't know if he's going to get the lead or not. My problem is that if he doesn't get the lead, it might be hard for him to win. But I completely understand the thinking here with Batten Down second off the layoff.
Yeah, I'm just banking on a few things here, to be honest with you. I trust that Rosario, actually, to me, this works out nicely because I don't think he'll be overly aggressive with this one. I keyed in on that work as well. 48-2 at Payson is ridiculous. I know for a lot of people when they see 48-2, like they would think that's normal. But again, with the way Payson is with such a deep track for 4 furlongs, that is noticeable. And then again, I like that it's second off the layoff, and I like that he's a younger horse who's ran in some really big fields against tough horses. And I just think you can make an argument, as you mentioned, older horses, but this is one of the few younger ones where I just think he has a ton of upside. Tried to make that cut back to a mile and 16. I think it's a really nice horse in Hall of Fame. And still went on to run a decent fourth off that layoff where, we talk about all the time, especially on those kind of layoffs, how it could take it out of a horse and they might need, a race or two to get back into it. And still, form-wise, stayed right back to what he was at. So I just think he has the most potential in this field and can take a big step forward. The one concern I do have, as you touched on, is, for these distance races, we normally talk about trying to find a horse with speed because no one usually has any early speed, and you kind of look for a price that could get loose. I feel like this race is the opposite, which is why I'm really happy to see Pat has Croupi on top, because I had this one in third and almost moved up to second. I really do think this is a race that, and I'm curious what you think, Pat and Kyle, but I think this race could really set up for the 8 or the 4. That's why I have them both in the money as closers, which, again, you don't really say it sets up for closers in a marathon. Again, I'm just banking on the upside and class of Bettin down, but I think this could set up nicely for the 4 and the 8.
Bingo. We'll get there, of course, in a little bit. But, Pat, I'll let you talk about Croupi. But to finish on Bettin down, I kind of hinted at it already. If he doesn't get the lead in this race, which there's 2 horses in this race that are very, very fast early, I don't see a winning way around the track for him. I mean, he's been very good on the lead. You can see in the Ohio Derby, I had him that day, was very, very good. And then, of course, in the Jim Daddy and Travers was always going to be tough. Then ran at Churchill at a mile and 3/16. So he's very good going long. It's just he's really good on the lead. And if he can't get the lead, I don't know if he can pass anybody. But again, the breeding on this horse has been touched on so many times. He has all the tools in his pocket. It's just a matter of, can he put it together, not on the lead. But so that's it for me. But I completely understand if you like Bettin down as I have him in second. Think he can definitely at least hit in the money. Pat, Croupi, I'm going to go on a high horse a little bit here. This is a horse I'm never right on. If I pick him, he runs terribly. If I pick against him in the Suburban with a horse like Ben Doog, I lose. So granted, I've been very right as of late, but again, he's been running in very, very tough races. This race is still tough, but probably not to the standard as something like the Pegasus World Cup.
Yeah, this 5-year-old. I mean, Bruce. Honestly, a very good, in the money record. 2-3-2 in 8 starts at the Big A.
Yep.
That does have a couple listed stake scores in there. I just really think that the 1.25 miles suits Croupi really well. The horse is going to have to improve and get a little bit faster. I understand that. But last out, that was a speed favoring track at Oaklawn.
Yep.
And that was maybe a little too short from that day. It was just nothing, no good there set up. So hopefully he gets back to, Aqueduct and, gets back to that 1.25 miles and can kind of just thrive in here. And hopefully the pace sets up well because I do think Croupi is there and it has numbers that in the back there that show that there's a lot of area to improve. And I'm hoping we can get back to it on Saturday because I'm going to catch a price. I'm hoping Saturday is the price because if Croupi can win, we won't be getting that price the rest of the year, I have a feeling.
And especially, and the thing is that you brought up, I think, is the distance. 1.25 miles. Croupi has run very, very good at races farther than 1.125 miles. And I'll point it back in a second here to the PPs. However, look at this. I mean, look at this race that he ran in last time. Banishing came back to win at Oaklawn Park. Haha, I know, funny. I was wrong again on him. 102 again. Full Screen ran a 90. Red Route 1. Came back to win the Essex, running a 98. Somehow he's back in form now. Creative Minister even came back to win. Oh, he got claimed last time. That's news to me. But he came back and won again at Oaklawn Park. So again, a very, very good race that's in there. So if these horses in Phileas Fogg, who's very, very fast early, and Mama's Gold, who is also very, very fast early, if they fight it out, it could definitely set up for a horse like Croupi or for my top pick in Mazmak. And I get Mazmak has to get a little bit quicker and has not faced nearly the class of someone like Bettin down or Croupi or anything like that. But he's been getting very, very good as of late, guys. It's starting out with that last race at Aqueduct where he blew the doors off that field, including a horse in this race in Mama's Gold and Classic Catch, who I believe is the 2 in this spot. he's just getting very good. And I think the more distance that he has is going to help him completely. He's going to get first run on a horse like Croupi in this race. He should sit just in behind the speed. And if he does, and he progresses to that high 90s, which he easily could at the age of 4, I don't see why this horse can't win going away necessarily, or at least going away from a horse like Croupi, who's going to be flying back. I just don't see how I get it. It's a marathon. I understand that, but I don't see how these two horses in Flayas Fog and Mama's Gold, and even Batten Down, I don't see how they're not going to run each other out in this race. I put Flayas Fog in third because I think he does very, very well with staying on through those hot paces. However, it's going to be a very, very tough way around the track. But I mean, he ran super well in the slop at Aqueduct back in December. Easily can be there. It's just, again, the matter of trip for him. Curbstone needs to get a little bit better. Croupi we've touched on. Batten Down we've touched on. Classic Catch, again, has the closing numbers. Just, again, has to get a little bit better for Castellano and Pletcher, and he's going to take a little bit of money based on the connections. And Film Star, he's 6 now, second off of the since January. I don't know if he's as good as what he used to be back in like late 2023 when he ran second in the Woodward to Zandon, and I can't tell you the last time I said that name. So going to be a little bit of a test for a lot of these horses in here, but Mazmak, probably not my best opinion on the day. However, if he continues to improve, I definitely think the 8 can be in there. Obviously, Charlie, you have him in second as well. Anything you want to touch on before we move on from either of you?
Yeah, no, all I was going to say is, I think he wants more distance. And again, to me, this is mainly 3 or 8. And for a lot of the reasons you were saying, again, I think it sets up for Croupi. And I think another thing that was important to point out that backs Patrick's point is if you look, not only was he running against tougher in those races, but he also ran into quite a few blue figures, which, again, I know we always say it'll be one way and it doesn't, but I just don't see this race not having enough setup. But yeah, for this 3 and 8 that I ultimately went with, I just went with 2 4-year-olds that seem to be improving or have the potential to improve. And I'm right there with you. I also just think this one gets the jump on Croupi. But again, I think another argument that Pat has is having the jump might not be enough. It could genuinely be fast enough that you don't even want to have the jump and want to set up. And I just think the other thing is, I think we all agree on these marathon races turf or dirt are just so damn tough. So I feel like these are great races where if you think you can take a price, I think these are the kind of races to go for it.
No, I mean, Pat, you obviously feel the same way. You have Mama's Gold, who's been very, very good. Again, going to be a tough way around the track, but you kind of feel the same way and taking a little bit of a price here.
Yeah, and one thing I'll say, I'm a big fan of Mac. I've had that horse a couple times, watched that progression into Stakes Company, and always thought this horse was a graded stakes type horse and should fit in here. The one thing on Naira's website, they do articles to preview each race. Dutchrow did say if it does rain, he's going to scratch Mac. Doesn't like the rain for Mac. So just be prepared for that. That's kind of what I'm preparing for in this race. But I do respect the pick, and I think Mac is right there if it's a fast track on Saturday, which we all are hoping it is.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is he ran well at a good track 2 back. So I'm wondering if it's like slop or something like that for Mazmak, but something like that. But we'll see come Saturday. Hopefully, again, I've heard enough about the damn weather this weekend. I just want it to be sunny, and I want it to be just good racing. Ton of people in the chat I want to get to here before we move on to the last race. Kyle and I are simpatico here from Howard. Howard, I like your pick. Again, soft opinion for me as well, but I do like the thinking, of course, as well. Felipe, my friend, thanks so much for joining the show. Said the way you guys handicap with no morning line odds is remarkable. That might be a little bit above our pay grade, but thanks, Felipe. I appreciate that. My friends and I are very impressed with the whole team. Felipe, thank you so much for the kind words. I really, really appreciate it. Christopher's late to the party, my friend. Thanks so much for joining the show. Greatly appreciated. And Stretch Runner 41 on X says, will a recording of this podcast be available on the site? YouTube.com/HHH Racing Podcast. You can find the video posted after the show has aired. So for you, Stretch Runner, and anyone else watching live that wants to catch this as a replay to maybe go back through a couple things, come to the HHH Racing Podcast YouTube channel. And Christopher also said that, again, I gotta pop myself up every time I can. I cashed big time in the Florida Derby. Glad you have that big future bet with Tappan Street. Thanks so much, Christopher. Greatly appreciating. Congrats for following along, my man. I'm glad you cashed big. I cashed enough, but hopefully the big cash comes from me in the Derby. Guys, let's move on to what everyone wants to do. But of course, before we do that, guys, if you are enjoying the podcast that you're watching right now, please go down below the video player here on YouTube. Or if you're watching on X, come on over to YouTube after the show and hit the like button for us. We would greatly appreciate it. And hit the subscribe button. We have passed 5,000 subscribers, as we touched on last week. Can't thank you guys enough, but we want to get on the road now to 6, 7, maybe even 10,000 one day. So come over to YouTube, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button to tell us that you guys are enjoying the content on the road to the Kentucky Derby. We would greatly appreciate it. Now, of course, speaking of the road to the Kentucky Derby, we are here at the Wood Memorial. Of course, the last race we're going to talk about today, it is a full field of 12 and a competitive one at that. Guys, morning line favorite, your guess is as good as mine. Rodriguez, of course, for Baffert chipping in here. Captain Cook, very good for Dutrow. Sandevil for Linda Rice. Hill Road for Chad Brown. Grande for Pletcher. Passion Rules for Cox. You know, there's a ton of all big names, and everyone wants that coveted Derby spot. So, guys, I will switch over to our picks right now. 2 people. I thought I was getting a little bit sneaky in here, but 2 people are going with Grande in this race, being Patrick and Charlie. I have that horse third, but I'm going with the number 6 Hill Road, for better or for worse. Charlie, I will let you talk first, my friend. Pat, please feel free to add on anything that you need to. Morning line favorite is going to be very interesting to see how the money plays out in this race. It's a very, very good race. And you're going with a horse who's a little bit lightly raced compared to a lot of others, but has run some very good ones as of late.
Yeah, and I'd love to see what if Noah's still watching, or any of the Cali guys in the chat, what they have to say, that I was the only one to have Rodriguez even in the top 3, which is a bit surprising. Yeah, I'll be honest. This race came a little underwhelming to me when we say the field, should I say, when I voiced my opinions in our group chat. It was tough for me to find a horse I could go with on the win end here. I think this is a pretty open race because it's just a lot of horses that you don't really know what you're going to get. That being said, with Grande, you know, I had this horse on debut, was running against Camp Hale, who took a ton of money that day, and I thought was really game and impressive despite the fast fractions they set together. And then Pletcher had the confidence to stretch this one out to 1 1/8, which, to be honest, after that debut, I wasn't 100% sure if he'd be ready to go 1 1/8 or when. But, you know, decided to end up stretching him out anyway. And obviously Todd Pletcher knows a lot more than I do about what his horse is ready for or not, because Grande took to it. And also, despite running against a nice horse in Jimmy Daly's, who beat Disruptor, who was a heavily backed horse, went off at just over even money in that race. So clearly the public believed in Grande as well. I'm just banking on the fact that this horse has speed but doesn't need the lead, has dealt with tough speed battles in both of his first 2 starts, and has gotten the distance before, which are all pluses to me. Again, I think this is a really tough and open race. There's no one who truly sells me. I think it sells up really nicely for Hill Road. I just don't believe in Hill Road. But I'm curious what you have to say, Pat. I like the upside and that this one has gotten through 2 tough races so far.
And real quick, Pat, before you touch on that, I want to point out that Jeffrey Amster, thank you very much. I missed this tweet earlier. He said David Aragona posted the morning lines on X, and thank you very much. I put them up before, but here it is now. Rodriguez is your morning line favorite at 5-2, which
wow, that's
man, that's nuts.
I expected. I thought he would.
I mean, I probably expected it, Baffert and everything else like
but
that, but holy crap, man! If that horse wins, then I'm just wrong, and that's obviously you can see by my picks how I feel about that. Captain Cook at 7-2. I know my dad. Shout out my dad out there. He has a future on Captain Cook, so he's hoping for that one to get into the Derby. This is the first year he did his research himself. He wanted to do it, and he landed on Captain Cook. So good luck to my dad out there with that future. Hill Road is your third choice at 9-2. Grande, the fourth choice at 5-1. Again, maybe I'm disrespecting Rodriguez. Charlie, you just put it in the chat. Maybe I'm disrespecting him. Charlie, I'd love to hear what you say about him. But Pat first. Grande, anything you want to add?
Yeah, only thing I'll add, last work was working with Groupie, so and worked right there with Groupie. I thought was going well, and they've pointed since that race at Gulfstream last out. They pointed to the Wood, and I think this horse is going to be ready to go. Should appreciate the distance. We'll see if the horse is as good as it's supposed to be in here. But this is obviously a class test, and I'm taking a shot because I do think the 2 and the 6 are very much in play as well.
And I'll tell you why I think the 6 is in play, Pat, is because the pace for the Wood Memorial looks very fast between the number 5 Sand Devil, the number 9 Bear Claw Necklace.
Oh, that horse is
who realistically probably has no chance in this race, but a very big implication into the pace scenario. And Grande, who's been very up close in his 2 races, they have him close to lead as well. So lots of different ways that people, horses can maneuver in this race to try and get around a very fast pace. Of course, starting with the second choice Captain Cook, but to my pick, Hill Road. Guys, look, I'm not saying this is a soft pick because I actually really like Hill Road in this race. He's going to have to be a little bit better. This is second off the bench here, off of a purchase out of the huge run that he ran the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. He's really the only horse that made up any ground in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Then came back to the Tampa Bay Derby, which is a very tough ask first time off the layoff. Maybe a little bit of a tightener. Now comes back here. Granted, he's been working at Payson. I like horses that have a little bit of time at the track and stuff like that. Obviously, Chad knows this horse as well. And if this pace does heat up, Hill Road could easily run close and mow them all down in the stretch. I would love him to not be 12th in this race by 15 lengths, although I could see him in 6th and I could see him in 12th. So I'm really hoping to see one and not the other. But again, I really do like Hill Road, and he's going to be one of my win bets that I place on Saturday, just hoping that somehow the pace does not just evaporate and not exist on Saturday, again, barring any gate shenanigans. So Hill Road is my pick for the Wood Memorial, of course, in 2025. Charlie, we're going to you first, then Pat will talk about Captain Cook. Rodriguez. Maybe I'm a little bit over the top on how much I'm on hater watch for this horse right now. This horse in the first 3 cannot pass a soul. And if he goes to the lead in this race, I don't see any way how he wins there, especially with Sand Devil and others that are going to be vying for this lead. Can he pass horses? Or are you banking that he might just hold on for a piece?
Yeah, so I'll touch on this, and then I'll briefly touch on Hero because I know it was my other one. So, yeah, with Rodriguez, look, I like that the blinkers are off because I completely agree with you. I don't think he's fast enough to try to wire this field or has shown that he can do that for a mile and an eighth. Obviously, I wasn't even going the distance. So, to me, I think the blinkers off is kind of an indication of that they're not intending to try to wire the field. I think Mike Smith being aboard is interesting. That's why I was laughing when Noah left his comment in the chat. As someone who had needed one of his horses at Gulfstream, he certainly will make his own decisions on what a horse wants, especially if a horse needs the lead. He will then go 4 wide and sit in 5th or 6th and just take the horse out of the race. So hopefully Baffert has a plan already for this one to sit off. I was just looking for upside here, to be honest with you. I'm always skeptical of the Cali horses. I know a lot of us tend to be in general anyway. I never really know what they can do. I always believe more in the horses on the Florida, New York, Kentucky path. That being said, again, for me, a lot of these horses in this field were disappointments and, to be quite honestly, don't belong in this race. So I was going for another upside pick where he still, has only had 4 starts, has ran against, some really serious horses in Citizens Bowl, Journalism Barn. So I'm just looking for the upside there, has the work. Again, there's a lot of questions. I feel like with Rodriguez, the reason I just put him in here is I think he's either going to run massive or terrible. Like, I think he either ends up running top 2 and, runs a really respectable race where either he's able to go the whole way and then maybe it sets up and Hill Road gets him, or maybe he battles it out with Grande, who has been able to fight off 2 speed horses in his 2 races and gets a good second, or he just does no running at all. And I don't know which it's going to be, but I'm just going to take that chance because I don't see a lot of horses here that interest me. And then briefly with Hill Road, my main concern with him, Kyle, and I'm curious what you have to say about this, is I'm just worried about what speed he has at all. Like, the thing I see is in both of his 2 races, they went slow and he was still that far back. So my concern is I think he could get the setup. I just don't know if he can. And again, I'm not trying to make this something where I'm making this about Sandman, but I think the reality we can say is when they flew in that race, though, I'm just saying, though, Sandman sat a lot closer than if you looked in his last 2 races where he couldn't get there in time. He had too much to do, and I do think Sandman's naturally faster. So I think that is something we have to acknowledge here is even if the setup's there, that's why, and I don't know if that's what you thought as well, Pat, the only reason I had him as low as 3rd and almost put him in 2nd and couldn't put him on the win end is even though I think the distance and setup will be there, I just don't know if he can be close enough. I don't know if this is a horse where I trust that if he's, 12, 15 lengths, 16 lengths off the lead, like you were saying, you're worried about, Kyle, which I think is a real reality. A, could that happen, which I think it could, and B, can he get there in time? And I don't know that he can. It's not like he's closed and had a race where he lost by a length or two and you were like, damn, he's just right. Like it's not like in his 2/3 he's been right there. I still think he's a talented horse and could make sense. That's just my one pushback on Hill Road. And I'm curious, Pat, if that's why you had him only in 3rd as well, despite the setup.
No, I mean, I wouldn't say that. I don't think he's going to have, we'll have time to get there. I think, this being a 1 1/8, a lot of horses might come back to him. A lot of horses are going 2 turns for the first time in here. So I think we have to question if they can go that distance. I don't think we question that with Hill Road. So I kind of look at it a little differently. I think Hill Road has a huge shot in here. And I think that's, Kyle, I don't know if you have anything else to say on Hill Road.
No, I'll just rebuttal to that because the difference is, Charlie, is I don't know how close Hill Road can actually be because both those races that are sitting on the screen right now. What the hell happened to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile? East Avenue put his nose in the dirt and they went freaking on a stroll through freaking Los Angeles on the front end. Yeah. So that's no use. And granted, he's the only one that made up ground. And the Tampa Bay Derby, what the hell happened there?
Owen Almighty got a police escort across the finish line.
Granted, Chancer McPatrick obviously made up more ground than Hill Road did, but he still ran very well and respectable. And in this race, I'm banking on that he's going to be at least a little bit of a price, a middling price, that is, of course, because a horse like Rodriguez, if he's 5-2, he doesn't have a choice, a win condition on the win end or when he's towards the lead for me in this race. And if he's taking the blinkers off, which I assume is to relax him in rate, if I'm taking a favoritism on a horse that's never rated and never showed that he could pass a horse, I'd much rather have a horse like Hill Road at double the price than a horse like Rodriguez. So that's my banking there. And if they go fast, I think Hill Road has a massive shot and can easily win this race. It's just a matter of if he has the setup, again, can he be good enough? Because he's never shown or he's never gotten the setup in his 2 races in America.
I just wanted to clarify because the only thing I was saying that we can move into the 2, and I think honestly all of us in a race that is pretty open are all over it. I really think the 4 horses we have in our top 3 are the main ones I see winning it. I absolutely still think Hill Road can win it. I absolutely on horizontals would use him. I was just saying with Rodriguez, I think for both of them, there's going to be caution. Like I didn't see who, but someone said in the chat that to an extent, you are to some extent betting the trainer and the price. You're also probably going to have the trainer reflected a little bit naturally.
No, yeah, absolutely. And Bob, I haven't seen this name before. Thank you so much. When he said Hill Road shows nothing, you're betting the trainer. And I'm going to push back on that a little bit here because this is the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Okay. Look at this race. You have the top 2 finishers in Citizen Bull and Gaming. Obviously, Citizen Bull is very good, and we'll see what he has in the Santa Anita Derby. Gaming was right off his flank the entire time and did absolutely no running. Getaway Car was 3rd early, 4th, 5th, 4th, up to the lead. Ferocious.
Shout out Ferocious.
Whatever the hell he ran that race, no idea. The only horse that faded was Akoro Azel in that race. Other than that, Hill Road is the only horse that made up any ground in that race, and he flew from last to 3rd. So he has talent and just hasn't gotten set up. It's just a matter of can he put it together with the setup? And of course, you're taking a leap of faith at that, but I still feel like the price is going to be decent enough to be able to take that chance where, in theory, he should be able to move up with a fast pace in front of him. So that's my thinking on Hill Road. Patrick, real quick, we're running a little bit over time, but of course, this is the last big Derby prep we're going to cover on the show. Needs to be talked about. Captain Cook, Manny Franco, Dutrow has all the tools of being a very good horse and is going to be up closer than horses like Hill Road to take advantage of that hot pace. Winner of the Withers, going to have to take probably another quick little bit step up, but he's got just as good of a shot as anyone in this race.
Yeah, I feel like this is the buzz horse for this race specifically coming in here. Doing very well. Just obviously 2 for 2 in the Dutrow barn. And I think, Dutrow said that he really likes the way this horse has just kept moving forward. And I see this horse running another big race and will be right there. I think this 2-turn is just perfect for him. So,
like I said, the race in the Withers, Pat, sorry to cut you off. I didn't mean to. I thought you were done. But
no, you're good.
The last race in the Withers was the test, right? It was the 2-turn test, and he passed it with flying colors. Obviously, he got a very good trip in that race against probably a little bit lesser than what's in this race. but he's done everything right so far in his career, at least from turning 3. And now this seems like the perfect spot for him in a race where he can take advantage of a pace in front of him, and be ahead of horses like Hill Road that are going to be flying late.
For sure. And I think the intrigue builds around this whole race just for the fact that all these horses need to win. I mean, they need to win this race to get in. Most of them do at least. And I think since it's sponsored by Resorts World Casino, the one that likes to cancel racing on Sundays in New York, I think
I knew it was coming.
No, I had to say it.
That has to, absolutely.
But no, this is a fun race, and I'm glad we got to cover it, and it was a fun time.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a great race on Saturday, and hopefully, like I said, Resorts World doesn't have a car show where it cancels the racing on Saturday. Of course, with the Derby prep, you would assume not, but look, you think you've seen it all in racing, and all of a sudden something rears its head again, and you're like, holy crap, that's something I've never seen before. So it feels like every week that happens. But either way, guys, let's wrap it up. We've gone a little bit over time already. In the Wood Memorial on the road to the Kentucky Derby, I'm going 6-2-7 with Hill Road on top. Charlie's going 7-1-6, and Pat's going 7-2-6, both with the exciting Pletcher trainee Grande on top. Guys, moving into best bets, but first, of course, thank you all very much for the support. The viewership has been so good. A lot of comments have been fantastic, and a ton of people have been commenting, and I can't thank you guys enough. So, please keep the train rolling. Of course, as we cover cards every single Wednesday here on Bettin N Boozin, and every single Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday here on the HHH Racing Podcast. So, Tuesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, both Wednesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. So please continue to keep this support up. We would greatly appreciate it. And if you guys enjoy the show, hit the like button and hit the subscribe button down below so you never miss another HHH Racing Podcast. Guys, let's move into best bets here. Charlie, I have you up first, so you're going to go first. Race number 7, an exacta 1-4. You've already mentioned it a little bit. That, of course, is Irish Maximo over St. Benedict's Prep, and in race number 9, that's a double. That is my bad. That is a host fail.
Oh, no, you're right. No, it is an exacta.
It is an exacta? Okay, cool. So an exacta 2 over 3-4 in race number 9, which is singling Balladina Doro and going Vanilla Sunday and early on underneath.
Yeah, so in race 7, I just think they're going to end up going around the track, and it's going to be one of those frustrating races where it's, again, I've learned and improved as a handicapper, whereas someone who likes closers are going to be frustrated. I just think ultimately this one wires them, and it sets up for St. Benedict to go right around in second. And then the next race, again, Ballerina Doro is just the horse that's most impressive to me, and I think if they do, because we talk about these races that don't have any pace, they end up having pace, or even the ones who don't go that fast, maybe they can't take to a mile and anything, it sets up. I want to have early on who I think has a ton of potential in second. And then if they don't go that fast, I agree with everything you said, Kyle. Vanilla Sunday may just be all the goods, but I'm just making this 2 wins regardless. But if Vanilla Sunday gets loose enough, then maybe the 2 gets there just in time and I get either 2-3 or 2-4. And both should pay decent because I think you're going to get a variety of like middling prices underneath.
Yeah. I mean, look, we talked about it at length. 2 definitely has the class. Banking on the pace setup, and the 3 might just be better. But completely understand. And good luck with your best bets, Charlie. Pat, going to you next. Going like me, 2 win bets. God, I've shaped the boys up to be. We're going from this pick 5 garbage. Now we're simplifying it, everybody. Win on the number 5, Socially Selective in race number 7. That's the Bill Mott trainee. And race number 12, a win on the number 7, Grande in the Wood Memorial, of course, that we just talked about.
Yeah, short and sweet here. I like Socially Selective. I think that horse needs to get back on track. It has the talent to do so in the Distaff, and then I'm going to take a shot with Grande in the Wood. I think he's going to progress. Like the longer distance, and I'm hoping I'll get a nice price. Obviously that morning line at I think 5-1. I'm hoping to try to get maybe around 3-1. I think the horse will be bet down a little bit, but really excited for this weekend, and the spotlight will be on the Big A because of everything else with the weather.
Yep, on us. And unlike our weatherman, the boss man, Howard Kravitz, we don't talk about weather on this show as they cover
we did
about
a little
it
bit
for
tonight.
Actually, a little bit, just a little bit, but
my fault.
Yeah. It's always, it's the old people. It's always the old people. Even though I'm easily the oldest on the screen, by the way. Race number 9, guys, I'm going with a win on the number 3, Vanilla Sunday. We talked about it at length. Hopefully he's just the goods. Again, anything below like 7-2, if you're getting them 3-1, 5-2, it's really cutting it close for a horse that really has to take a step up in that race. So leaning there, but price dependent. And I'm going with a win on Hill Road, guys. I really think he could be the goods, could get the right setup. And if he does at 9-2, 4-1, I feel like that's definitely good enough. Again, I talked about it, to where, and Rodriguez could easily stuff me in a locker and make me look like a moron, just like White Abario did last week. So, we're all wrong. We're all right. So going to go with Hill Road, hopefully 4-1 in that race, willing to take a shot on that one. But guys, can't thank you all enough for viewing, commenting, everything today. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, this will be up as a replay. So if you guys need to go back through your handicapping for this Saturday at the Big A, please come back to the podcast and leave a comment. If you guys are watching this as a replay, who is your best bet this weekend at the Big A? You guys have been absolutely fantastic. And thank you, of course, to my co-host for sponsoring. You guys don't sponsor me. Howard the Boss sponsors everybody. But thank you guys for all your work that you guys have done throughout the weeks of the Kentucky Derby preps. Couldn't thank you guys enough. But thing I forgot to mention earlier is that the Keeneland Today shows will be up for every single race that's covered, or every single weekend racing day of Keeneland, Saturday and Sunday throughout this spring meet. So tune in for those at 11 a.m. Eastern, I believe, 10 a.m. Central Time. So please tune in for those every single weekend racing day at Keeneland. Howard will send out something on X tomorrow regarding all the changes that have happened this weekend. But guys, this has been episode 126 of Bettin N Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast, covering Wood Memorial Stakes Day on the road to the Kentucky Derby at Aqueduct. And for my co-hosts, Patrick Kunsel and Charlie Freeman, this has been your host, Kyle Roscoe. And until next time, everybody, crush those bets, win those photos, and stay safe, everyone. We'll see you in the next one. Have a good night.